All right, welcome. This is all about student engagement, ways to make sure that they are staying engaged in your class. And of course, this is in a PowerPoint version, so it may be slightly different whenever you actually put it into things like Blackboard or Zoom or things like that. So just kind of a heads up that that may be a difference. All right, so this is usually kind of the thing that I have at the very beginning when students come in the door. Welcome to whatever class it is. Look, I even have my picture up here so that way they can see who I am. Um, and I give them something to do when they first walk in the door. So I'm going to give you something to do as well. How do you engage students in your classroom already? And which ways have you felt were the most helpful? I want you to pause the video right here, think about that, because oftentimes that will help guide you into what of these would be the easiest to transition into trying. All right, moving on. So here is the first slide after, if there's any announcements, I'll probably do it between these, but then there's the objective and it tells us exactly what the students will be doing for that day. I try to get students involved from the very get-go of reading aloud and try to get them to volunteer to have it like have like a line of students so that way they can kind of rotate through if possible. If you catch them at the very beginning of the trimester or semester or school year, then they're going to be more likely to want to read. But if you wait until you're into like the third lesson, more than likely they're going to be a little bit more hesitant. So grab them from the get-go. Also, you'll note that I wrote about the color scheme. So greens and blues are very inviting. It helps to kind of calm. You want to make sure that your colors add up to what you want them to be feeling at the time. So if it's something urgent, make sure it's in red, that kind of stuff. You can look up on your own on colors to see which ones work the best for what, but this is just kind of a taste. Oh, and limit the beginning slides. You don't want to have too many because you're going to lose students from the very get-go again. So remember, like we have students who the attention span is not as great as we would like for it to be, and so making sure not to lose them at the very beginning is a helpful thing. All right, here's one of the things that students really enjoy is I will do like a celebration, birthdays, way to go on such and such assignment, that kind of stuff. And students just love to see their names up there and celebrated. And I include the students that don't come to the lessons too, because that way whenever they watch the recordings, they can see their names. It kind of gives them a reason to get in there. All right, get to know your students from the very beginning. Again, one of those from the get-goes, make sure it happens. I've got a survey. It's part of the course, but it was kind of hard to pull the report this last time, so I'm actually going to make it within the Microsoft Forms this next time around, so it'll be easier to pull. But big thing is remember you want to start the phone communications and one-on-ones with personal stuff. Don't just jump right into whatever it is that you're working on. Get to know them, kind of like the question at the beginning of class. If it's something that's more personal to them, they're going to be more likely to start in the conversation and continue on. All right, copy and paste your favorite artist, musical, acting, visual art, etc. I was going to put in the one that I got from students the last time we did this, but unfortunately I couldn't find it. But they filled up the screen and then some. I had to have like extra slides just so that way they could fill it up. If it's something a little lesser and exciting, then of course you're going to get less of, a response to it. But maybe this is something that's, like one of those, like, I just want to see if you're here, and then pull up where you can see who's doing what. Like there's the whiteboards option and Blackboard that I like to watch. So that way I can call out names, which is another way to personalize. Oh, thank you, so and so. Oh, that's a great one. blah blah, like whatever their names are, make it personal. Whenever it is something like, how do you feel in the very beginning, it kind of helps them to get into the information. You could do this in one of two ways. You could do it, A, B, C, D as a polling tool thing. You could tell them to use their chat box, use one of those emotions, tell me how you're feeling about this. Do it at the beginning and go, I'm hoping that we get more big smiles, and then do it at the end to check and see where they're at. And it helps them to be able to tell you how they're doing. If you've got a really shy group, I tend to say do the polling on this and turn it off where nobody else can see it. If they're really rambunctious, uh, love to just tell it all, then let them do it in the chat box or, the drop down, wherever it is for the class platform that you're using. All right, get comfortable saying. So in the beginning, you want to make sure that they understand that it's okay to make mistakes. So please, please, please make them comfortable. Model dealing with issues. Explain how you are working to solve problems. Don't be afraid to be human. I mean, like, I make expressions all the time and make silly stuff happen. I mean, in my background, you'll see that I've got like all kinds of Doctor Who stuff. I show them my personality, so they'll be willing to show me theirs as well. And again, I model the fact that, yeah, I make mistakes. I'm a teacher. Ooh, oh my goodness, I make mistakes. It's okay. If I can make them, then you can make them too. And here in class, we don't judge, that kind of thing. Growth mindset, mistakes are, a platform for growing, that kind of stuff. All right, moving pieces. I was going to move them on here, but I don't think it'll let me. So whenever you do it in PowerPoint, it sticks. So what I do is before class ever starts is I actually will make it a snip of whatever it is that I want to put up there. And I will copy and paste it to the slide that I want it on whenever it's in Blackboard. If it's in Zoom, I'm assuming that you'd have to make it where you'd have to, make this smaller and then be able to actually move it around, that kind of thing. But make them group it, make them put it in the order that it occurred in. You'll note that I always put information on what to do, so that way if they zoned out and they're back with us, they'll know exactly what is expected of them. What I tell them is the same as what is on the slide too. So, use the whiteboard tools as the little arrow so that way you can drag and move on this slide. And for things like this, I make them smaller group. So it's not the big group, but, maybe the first time around you want to model it yourself, have them help you out with it, and then set them off on their own. And that's really a great thing to do for pretty much any lesson. All right, matching, draw a line, using GIFs that move. If you can make it work, awesome. They love it. But drawing lines for matching is great, but don't make it boring. Make it something interesting. Make it a conversation starter. So it doesn't have to be an absolute, this is what's going to go to this. Make it where they have to explain. So why did you choose that? I'd love to hear, where you're getting that idea from. Oh my gosh, that's such a great idea. So make sure that you're kind of vocalizing those ideas aloud too, if they're only in the chat box, so the others can hear it if they're not following along with the chat, because sometimes that can be very intimidating. Again, I tell them exactly what to do, what to use. Use pictures of popular characters that they know. Oh my gosh, this turned into a conversation starter. And then I started talking about, well, this is Okiki, and this is Nini, and this is blah, blah, blah. And so it kind of got them a little bit more interested in what was happening. You can always do whiteboard responses like how to, why, explain, to appear, define in your own words. I have never found it where whenever you say, click on and do the private message to the person below you or above you, that kind of stuff, it usually doesn't work all that well. It can, but I would definitely say instead maybe just turn it into, turn off the chat and make it private only, and then you can respond that way. Speaking of, with waterfall, you can turn it off and say, stop, don't do anything until, and that gives them plenty of time to think. Always put a timer on so that way you make sure that they have enough time to think. Because often if you move on too quickly, then you're going to lose them and they're going to just go, like they didn't even try. This way it kind of makes it where, you're forced to. Okay, so there's outside apps that you could use. To, make collages or, just explore sticky notes, that kind of stuff. Don't be afraid to try anything new. I mean, the students usually love to see this neat, interesting thing that's going on. Um, Sometimes you might lose students whenever it's outside app, so maybe it's something that they do at the end of class and then you gather it together for the next day. Something like that, that would be fine. Just if you are doing an outside one, like do something like quizzes where you can see who is actually logged in and, oh, thank you so and so for being logged in, that kind of stuff also is definitely helpful because then, everybody wants to be in there. Ask opinions. Well, they're full of opinions, right? So why not ask them about it? Get them involved. Draw a representation or a scene. These are some examples of what students had made for the social classes in 1984. And so, I mean, some really great ways that they went about representing all of that. Um, with the polling, like I always put a picture with it if I can possibly do it, something that doesn't exactly meet, but it's very close. So it's not a boring thing, but like this definitely is about like the imperialism. It took away a lot of the traditional things, but yet brought on some of the newer things, like this fellow's wearing a ball cap. So it kind of helps students to relate to what's going on. Keep them on their toes, have multiple choice answers, multiple answers, so like A, B, and D, that kind of thing. The one you feel the most, so it may not, any of them may not be correct, or there's, like just, again, conversation starters. Quick engagement check. So you're in the midst of stuff, you realize this is really heavy. I borrowed this from another teacher, by the way. Put them in another room, or do a really quick, like, oh my gosh, which one speaks to you the most? Do a video. So they go into a different room to do the video. They go into a different room to solve the riddle or put a puzzle together or complete an assignment on a personal slide, work as a group, blah, 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 blah. They come back once they're done, reflect on it, that kind of thing. This is something that I do at the end of the live lessons themselves. Go to the room that you need. But my students also know that if they are not ones that like the live lessons, then they can go into a breakout room from the get-go and get work done. This is one of those examples of, this is what we're covering in class. This is where you can help yourself out, what it looks like for the week. Some help for each of the stories that are being read. Sometimes they're audiobooks, that kind of thing. This is a slide that I made with everything so far. I only usually do this at the very end of the time, but I've done it before with like unit specific, but then it turns into a lot of breakout rooms. So that's why I kind of did it this way. So that way they could figure out which one they wanted to use, and then it has a link connected to it that they would be able to click. If you were to actually click it now, these are actually clickable links. That's how I kind of get away with not making it crazy where I'd have to make white boxes everywhere. And that is all I have for you. My thing will only record for 15 minutes, and hopefully I didn't lose you in the process of not being able to make this as interactive as I could if it were in real life. But, explore online. There's a lot of different videos out there of what to do, how to do. I mean, never feel bad about making a mistake. Remember, modeling for them is great. Showing them that that's a part of life and what to do with it is awesome. All right, hope this finds you well. Bye.